Welcome to Building Kansas City. I'm Doug Wilder, your host, bringing you weekly stories from entrepreneurs, leaders shaping Kansas City. Whether you're established or just starting out, there's something here for everyone. Let's build KC together. All right, welcome to another podcast of Building Kansas City. I'm here with Camille Christie from Westar Development. So I always like to just kind of jump in and we don't have to go back to your childhood, but maybe out of college kind of thing. Talk about your path to where you are now.
Thank you so much for having me, Doug. Really excited to be here and kind of just talk about everything from, like you said, I mean, I was born into this business basically till now. And I work for my family business. I mean, childhood is where I start because I was picking up trash in shopping centers when I was like 7 years old. Not child labor, I promise. It was willing. But always, didn't really know if I wanted to be involved in the family business growing up, but definitely always had a knack for business and was able to be involved from an early age in all the different ways. So that was really cool. And then I did play soccer throughout high school. I mean, from when I was little to throughout high school, and then also was able to play in college at Coastal Carolina University, which was an amazing experience. Really enjoyed it, and definitely was not good enough for any level beyond that, right. But was definitely able to enjoy it in college. And college athletics teaches you so many cool things, and I think that a lot of that translates into commercial real estate. It's a tough industry to break into. Obviously, I had a little leg up with my family, but I didn't want to work for them straight out of the gate. Yeah. So wanted to do my own thing, kind of prove my own worth.
Prove yourself. Yeah.
And it was a good move to go to Charlotte, North Carolina right after. It's about 3 hours from Coastal, which is in Myrtle Beach, and was able to launch my commercial real estate career there and did some property management to begin with while I was getting my brokerage license, and then dove right into brokerage and did retail, triple net sales, and leasing for about 4 years. Worked for a small family company there to start, and then went to CBRE and really enjoyed, the juxtaposition of a small family-owned company that wasn't my own family, see how they ran things, and then to go to CBRE, who's, the big powerhouse brokerage company in the U.S., was really interesting to see the contrast there. So it was a great time to be learning commercial real estate in Charlotte, huge city, growing like crazy. They have a ton of young talent there with all of the colleges and universities around there. So a lot of young professionals, which was really fun. And it was great. But 2020 came around, and I actually made the move before COVID. Yeah. So I'm not going to blame COVID. I was like, okay, this is my year. I gotta make the move. And my husband was, nice enough to make the move with me, and always knew we'd end up back in Kansas City. So
Charlotte, though, cool place, right?
Really fun. Yeah. I mean, it was really hard to leave, honestly. Like, I was like, I know I want to get into development, but I was loving brokerage at the time, and we did, a Fifth Third bank rollout that was like 20 banks in 12 months. I mean, I couldn't have been doing more deals and like seeing more transactions than where I was at the time. So that was really fun and informative for my career, and definitely helped, give me a really good base for being able to kind of dive into development. I think people think development, you don't touch brokerage at all, but that's not the case. You always are doing deals, and to see it in the different capacities from doing that rollout in Charlotte for Fifth Third. I mean, you love a bank as a client because they're like, we'll pay whatever, right. We need this site. This is where we need to be. So that was pretty fun, but it was hard to leave for sure.
How much tug was there from the family back here to get your ass back here and go to work?
My gosh, so much.
Was there?
I mean, they knew that I was really enjoying it. I was doing well, and All our college friends were there too. So it was really hard to leave, friends, but we're like, if our roots grow too much deeper here, like we are planted, we're not going to leave. Right. So, my dad was like, it's time. I think you're ready. But it was great to see it from a different perspective. I think if I would have just started out with my family business, developers are hardcore. My dad's, does not fall outside of that box. And so I think, being able to prove myself outside of, his company and his world bought me some respect too. And so it was a good point to come into the business with him. And I hadn't done really any development at that point. So I knew I would be learning a lot, but it was definitely a big change for sure.
Well, it probably gave you just a little bit of confidence to come back here and kind of get in the mix and spread your wings.
Yeah. And I think I was able to bring some really good tidbits that they hadn't really thought about before. I mean, being solely in the brokerage world, you're really, great at, negotiation and able to understand what the market's doing. And from just being on the landlord side with Westar is really, we own all the properties that we lease. And so you don't really see a lot. We don't do any tenant rep. So you don't see a lot of different sides of the deal. And so there were some antiquated things that they had no bumps. They would keep lease rates the same for 10 years. I was like, come on, guys. These people can pay a little bit more. You know, how are we going to add value to the center over time? So it was tough to implement some of those changes, but some of them they were like, oh yeah, we love that. Let's run with that. Yeah. So I was able to, bring a little bit of my own expertise and add value there. So that was nice.
So we can circle back real quick to the child labor laws. So, I grew up in the industry. My uncles were all plumbers. And so, I would be their little grunt boy during the summers. Yeah. And so, and you're right. My uncles were very hardcore. There was no HR department.
Oh, right.
And then when I started building and remodeling, I took my kids out very young age and to do all the grunt work as well. So I can totally relate to what you went through.
Oh my gosh. And I think it's a rite of passage, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're always like, well, you have the most energy. You're a kid. And it's like, I mean, that's true. You don't mind picking up, you don't think about, now I still walk through shopping centers and pick up trash. But I'm like, oh, gotta wash my hands after. As a kid, I'm like, oh, I'll grab all of the soda pops and all of the cigarette butts and not even think about it. So,
well, at the time, you weren't aware of how much it was going to teach you for later on, the whole scope of the project.
Exactly.
What goes on, what needs to happen.
Yeah, and I think, as being a family-owned business, we're not super expansive. We have our properties that, we are doing a lot of development right now, and I would say about doubling our portfolio, but we've had a lot of the same properties for a long time, and maintenance is such an important part of that. Tenant retention is key, and so, your front door of a shop is so important for a tenant because that's, in the retail world right now, experiential retail is what everyone wants because that's how you draw your customers in. And if your front door is trashy and hasn't been power washed or whatever that may be, it deters tenants and customers. Sure. So you think you're just picking up trash, but you're right. You're learning definitely lessons on commercial real estate, on how to take care of things, how to bigger life lessons than just doing some maybe child labor.
Well, it's interesting. I've always kind of been on the residential side.
Yeah.
But even trying to find a building for our business here and a new warehouse kind of got into kind of addictive looking for commercial property. And it's actually a really exciting part of what we do here on the residential side. So I can imagine how exciting it is for you guys to develop it from ground up.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of the properties, it's funny because my dad will joke with our bankers, and we have a funny relationship where I'm one of the only ones that can tease him and he'll laugh. But, I'm like, oh, you weren't developing. He gives me crap and says, oh, well, we didn't do anything until you came. You're the reason, joking around because obviously they did a lot before I was here. But I think that, a lot of the cool part about the developments I'm working on now is that my dad and uncle purchased these properties in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so they've been sitting on these properties for, decades.
Right.
And they've come to fruition at the time where I'm able to step up and like be that person that's leading the development team. And so it's been really cool to kind of have everything fall into place, I guess, when I'm ready to take it on.
Yeah.
It is. It's really, really fun. I mean, brokerage is like maybe 1/15 of the development side of things. It's like you have, entitlements, working with the city administratively, like all of your professionals, it's just, there's so much that goes into it. You're able to just learn like the full gamut of everything rather than just kind of be siloed into one section of it, which I really, really enjoy. No day is the same, like no matter what.
It's all problem resolution, though, right?
Yeah.
I love that part of all of this business.
Yeah. I would say you're always putting out fires, right?
Yeah. And everything comes to you new, so it's not that just that monotonous day to day. Every day is a little different.
Exactly.
Well, you and I spoke before, so and with the land acquisitions that you talked about, maybe let the people listening in the path that your father used to take driving around and looking at land when you were even a young child.
Yeah, I mean, even like up to like 2018, 19, before we have 200 acres on Ridgeview Road between the north side of K10 and Prairie Star Parkway, which is 95th. And the road, Ridgeview Road, didn't go all the way through. The road didn't even exist until 2020. And so even then, like I wasn't even a kid. I was, a young adult, and we're in his car, like driving off cliffs, basically. Like he's like, this is where the road will be. And I'm like, how are they going to put a road here? Like, this is crazy. But I think just like seeing that, like, it's hard to even remember that now with where it's at today. Everyone's like, well, how much longer is it going to take? I'm like, well, we've come a long way since, the road got put in, and all the utilities then have to follow. No one sees that part of the construction process. They're like, oh, nothing's happened in 2 years. I'm like, well, this ground didn't even have water, sewer, power, and so it's funny when people are like, oh, this is taking a while. I'm like, well, I mean, it's been 25 years that we've had this ground, so I think that we're excited to be in an area that's growing so much too. And so that's also a lot of those questions come from excitement from people wanting to know what's going on and, what's happening, and which is great because you love to have that before you're even kind of built out to that point and not having to beg people to come out and see your property that's kind of, maybe on the edge still. But I think we like to call our piece over in Lenexa kind of like a suburban infill site. I know there's like a lot of urban core infill, but it's like we're a suburban infill because there was, development all around it. They just hadn't put that Ridgeview Road punch through yet. So it's been really fun to, I mean, I don't remember as much when I was little about, him driving around, but even like I do remember when we would go to KU basketball games when I was, in middle school or whatever, and he'd point out to before the Garmin-Olathe soccer complex was there that we did, and Ridgeview, the shops at Ridgeview have been there for about 20 years, so they were starting to get up, but he would be like, this is our future, and I'm like, what the heck is he freaking talking? Right? Yeah, like there is nothing here. There's no roads. No one even lives out here. So I would definitely call him like a colorful land speculator. Like he has a great vision, and he loves to kind of just have that vision for land. And I think that that's a very unique thing that maybe a lot of people don't see. But I mean, him and my uncle tell stories about how they used to have these paper maps and like look at where the sewer was going and where JCW was like going to be putting sewer main extensions in and following the sewer main like extensions to see where the next track they should buy is. And it's just crazy how they used to figure it all out and, you know, how they came up with what they did. And it's just, you know, funny to look back on when I hear stories. They're like, oh, you know, oh, we did Roland Park. Oh, we did that. And it's, you know, we don't own a lot of that stuff still, but to see how they've shaped the city is really cool to me too.
Yeah, something to be proud of too with
Yeah.
the family. Well, I mean, most people don't know how long it takes to even get the
Oh my
city
gosh.
on board with,
Yeah.
even to start digging dirt.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's an important piece too, because like the spreadsheet can pencil all you want, but if you don't have the city on board from the beginning, I think that's just like such an integral piece. Like it's always been, but now so much so that, you know, people kind of have a negative connotation with developers. They think that, you know, we're all driving around in like Lamborghinis. And I mean, it's completely the opposite. You know, we're always never having enough cash, like always taking too much risk. But I think that that's kind of the piece that you have to have from the beginning is the city has to be on board with kind of your vision, because otherwise they can make it really hard for you. And also things aren't really penciling anymore with construction costs without like incentives.
Yeah.
And, you know, the layman doesn't really understand like, okay, you get these, the TIF incentives is your tax increment financing. Well, that's property tax that the city's probably still collecting half the property tax that you're generating by that increment, but and the developer's getting half, but the developer's only getting that in Kansas. The state statute's 20 years. So we're only collecting half that property tax for 20 years to help make our project pencil. Well, that development's going to be there for, you know, forever.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So it's just like, I think that there's, you know, a lot of people that don't understand really the benefit that they'll, you know, continue to receive from those incentives. They don't get why, the city's giving away money that could be spent elsewhere. Well, projects aren't even penciling with that anymore. Yeah. So it's definitely, you know, a hard conversation when you get people that are really agitated or don't understand why the city would give something like that up. Well, I think we're in an amazing position that the city of Lenexa and the city of Olathe have been incredible at supporting us with incentives and understanding that, you know, we're not going to be able to get the project done without it. So,
Well, no, they'll reap the benefits of all that stuff.
Right.
So,
right.
well, and it's easy to visualize a Garmin sports complex after it's built.
Right.
But think about all the people that put that vision together when it was farmland.
Right.
Like, okay, this is going to, like your dad.
Yeah.
This is our future. What we're going to start farming? No, he saw this project and where all the buildings go. Yeah, there's a hell of a risk there, and a great vision and imagination. So
yeah, and I think like also, you know, there's a family behind all that risk. You know, developers aren't just like completely risk adverse. They're stressed out of their mind half the time, and like they have a wife and kids that are like, you know, they're like, oh, am I gonna make this work or is this gonna break me? Yeah. And I think that, you know, we're lucky enough to kind of be past that point. But when I was growing up, I know like it was really hard on my family. And, you know, I think that you have to have, my mom's incredibly strong. She's an architect and an engineer. And she was in buildings tearing out. They owned that building on Grand, the Rock Hill Grill building. And she did all the environmental remediation on that. And she still remembers, she was like, I was in there tearing out all the yucky shag carpet, like myself, and got scabies and like had to go to the doctor, and I had these bugs crawling in my skin from like me tearing this carpet out. You know, it's like, okay, it's not that glamorous like to own real estate. Sure. So it's pretty exceptional. I think it's a lot harder to do now, obviously. I mean, with lending requirements, and it's not all about your DSCR and LTV anymore. It's like, you know, what is your balance sheet like? What do you look like as a whole, as a borrower? So it's a lot harder and more stringent to borrow money, which is really the only vehicle you can use to grow. I think a lot of developers, that's where their stress comes from, is because you get leveraged, and you got to be able to like make the project work, and it's definitely a balancing act. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So speak about some past projects you're passionate about that you're really proud of when you drive by now, and then maybe talk about what you guys got coming up in the future.
Yeah. So I don't really have a ton that I'm like, this is done. Like, I would say like my entire 5 years I've been at Westar has been dedicated to this 200 acres. We're branding the Vista as a whole. And we have, some stuff on the northeast corner, some retail buildings we're currently leasing that are awesome opportunities next to Dutch Bros. So call me if you want to lease any space, anyone. But we have a hotel going there. We've been working on that deal for a while. And then we have the Vista Village project, which is at Prairie Star Parkway and Ridgeview, and just getting like the roads in, the retaining wall built, all the elevations correct, like all the infrastructure in. I mean, that's taken us, 4 years, which seems like a lot, but on that 47 acres, we have over 100 feet of fall over the 47 acres. Wow. It's a blighted site. There's undermining, which is all occupied space actually by Meritex. They own that and lease that space, but still is very, very hard to develop over like the surface area. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more restrictions in one part of that development. But we got roads in. We have a couple townhouses coming out of the ground at Lux Residences. Call Stephanie Bulcock if you're interested, our realtor on those. And then we have KC Beer. We're really excited about that project, and that is actually breaking ground next week.
Yeah, I read that was coming in. That's exciting.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. I mean, it's going to be... It's more of a new concept to the Kansas City market, but the concept's been proven throughout like Austin, Charlotte. It's the big beer garden where everyone gathers with a stage, and an off-leash dog park where you can sit at a table, drink your beer, just let your dog into the dog park and hang out and watch a concert. And I think that those kinds of concepts are so important now. We're not doing as much of the big grocery anchored centers. We're doing more of, the pad retail that has the experiential concept that brings in the people, and people are excited to go there. So I think that's a huge draw for the area, even though it's a little bit of a different anchor. We're viewing that as our anchor. So that's going to be a great concept. And Steve Hawley, the founder of KC Beer, is, a great operator. His wife is also involved, Kathy Hawley. And those are the people we love to do business with. It's fun to do business with the local retailers, and we love the local, tenants, because they're the mom and pops that call us if, hey, we know our back door is our responsibility in our lease, but can you help us out? And we're like, absolutely. That's what the landlord-tenant relationship should be. It's a give and a take. It's each party should benefit. It shouldn't just be like
absolutely. You
calling someone that you don't even know who we're dealing with a tenant that's looking at one of our centers right now, and they're like, we don't even know who our current landlord is. There's a management company that we ask them for help, and they get back to us 7 days later, and they're like, one of the biggest draws for us, for you guys, is we love your center, but we also love that we're calling you, we're calling the landlord that's actually cares that if our roof's leaking, like you'll have someone out there as quickly as possible, because it does affect our everyday business. So I think we're really excited about what Vista Village is going to be. It's going to be more of a hyper local tenant mix with KC Beer. We have Pecan Jack signed. we're working with a wellness center. We're working with an outdoors store that's going to have bikes to play off of the Gary Hiller Trail that's directly across the street, which is also why KC Beer loves the location, because we're going to have, bike racks throughout the development. People are going to, be able to go on a run club across the street and come and sit at KC Beer outside with a cold beer afterwards. And, that's what people want to do in their community. I think it's not just an urban core concept anymore to have a walkable mixed use. It's like the suburban families want that too. They don't want to have to drive everywhere. They want to be able to be like, oh, let's go to KC Beer and after walk across the parking lot to Pecan Jack's for an ice cream. So
people love that walkability now.
Yeah.
People talk about it all the time.
And maybe like if they live close by, ride their bike from the trail, pop on over for a beer, and then ride their bike back home. A fun activity for the family if you're above 21. But KC Beer will have other, obviously sodas and pops, but. I think that those are kind of the things we're getting really excited about. A lot of the development I've done so far is really that like infrastructure and site prep of, we have over 70 acres under development right now. So it's not as fun because everyone's like, I don't see anything different. It's like, well, there's a lot different, but you just don't see it, So we're finally getting to that part where it's like, okay, the building's going to go up. This is going to be really exciting. We sold a piece on that track to Cityscape Residential, a great apartment developer. They have stuff throughout, Lee Summit. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all.
I have seen some of their projects, so it's great.
And they're already like leasing their apartments and Class A 274 units that it's like on site. And that backs up directly to KC Beer. So people will literally be able to walk across the small private road to go over and get a beer from there. And then we have our villas, like I said earlier, the Luxe residences. And, sometimes we get a little frustrated with the city for adding costs to our plans, but they've done a lot of things to help us kind of make sure that development is, there's pedestrian pathways, there's connectivity, there's a huge staircase going from the Luxe because of that elevation change, it sits a lot higher than the retail section. Just being able to have that huge staircase that we're going to, try to get maybe some creative, painting or some mural or something to enliven that staircase so people use it back and forth between the residences and like the retail. We're finally able to kind of start those discussions rather than just talking to, sewer and water. And so it's like, this is like refreshing. And, but it's all very fun and interesting to me. I don't mind those things, but I think just to the average person, they're like, what's going on? It's been 3 years since you guys started this. And
well, they're not up here and looking at that whole umbrella.
Right.
It's just they drive by every day and there's not a lot of action at times.
Right.
But
yeah.
I know you talked about the local connection with being the developer and the owner and for your tenants. I think that's huge. I think people are really looking for that. Some of these warehouse space and businesses are owned by national corporations and they just don't get the service.
Yeah.
They don't get the attention. Can't get a hold of anybody.
I think it also used to be a little different. People didn't care who their landlord was, but now it seems like there's a shift. And I think that it's kind of like just a general economic trend that, local, where are you buying your food?
Yeah.
Where are you getting your services? Like support your local community. And I think that people are becoming a lot more aware of that and they realize that you're able to get better quality food. You're able to get better service from local retailers and service providers. You're able to get better, everything kind of just a little bit more elevated if you're able to tap into your community rather than having some national, brand, not really care about you or what you're consuming.
Yeah, you can have that face-to-face or that quick phone call and they're there all the time you call and answer. It's definitely much better. I think people prefer that.
Yeah,
so,
agreed.
So, so you guys got a piece of dirt. You're going to develop it. You're doing all the work, 4 years, sewers, all this kind of stuff, city stuff. How is it you start marketing to to potential tenants like a KC Beer or the wellness? Is this something you guys just put out in the city, or how do they know there's going to be a potential property they might want to invest in or lease
Yeah.
out?
I would say that like my first key thing that I need is a site plan. So like our civil engineer, we use Renaissance Infrastructure Consulting, and they've been awesome to work with. They'll produce a site plan for me that is really a very basic, like black and white, really only makes sense to like a developer or someone that understands property, usually not the tenant. So I'll have to either like beef that up a little bit on my own. I use Canva, which everyone's like, oh, maybe it should be better. But, we also now have Treasure Advertising, and they help us with, pamphlets and marketing information too. And I think that, getting something in front of someone that maybe is able to see the vision. Like I was just at something last night actually with KC Beer. They're finishing up their fundraising for the new location out here, and part of their presentation was, oh well, when Camille called me like 3 years ago, which I've been working on this deal for forever. That's the deal length is not fun in commercial real estate, but he was like, when she called me forever ago, I get calls all the time about, hey, we think you'd be great here. We think you'd be great here. And I think, that's where the brokerage community comes in. They're able to help clients, vision out what's going to be there and how great of an area it is. But me as the developer, I'm kind of in there before that, even pitching sites and finding concepts that I love, really, honestly. I'm like, this is great. Like, I'll sit down at a restaurant and I'll ask for a business card for the manager or the owner, and I'll follow up. And a lot of times I get nowhere, but sometimes I get somewhere. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll follow up with you in a year, and I'll put it on my calendar, And I think that that's where my brokerage background definitely helped me, because people are always looking for their next business venture if they're operating a successful, venture. And I think that with KC Beer, I was like, try to sell them on the trail, because I know that they're currently on a trail, they're on the Brookside Trail right now. And so it's like, well, that's important to them. They like walkability. They don't have a presence in like a suburban market in Kansas City. They have a great brand. And then I also think if I can sell them on the area and kind of show them and paint a good picture, but get them in person at our office to meet us and to see what we're all about, and kind of sell them on us also as a landlord and an owner. I think that's a big selling point for us, because going back to, local and, a lot of times brokers will pitch a user a site, but they're pitching for a national owner, a REIT or whatever, and they never get to meet the owner. And I think that, understanding that, hey, we're going to be a great landlord, but we're also going to take care of you. And we're going to, make everything right. If something goes wrong during the process, like, we will make it right, because this is our livelihood too. We're not just going to kick you to the curb and find the next best thing. So I think that's a big selling point for people now too, like we discussed.
Well, it's a great story for you guys too, with your father and the family business and local and always being here. I think people really buy into that. And once they meet everybody, it's got to be a plus for anybody that comes in your office.
I think that we're pretty fun too. You know, we don't try to take ourselves too seriously. There's a lot of joking around, and I feel like people appreciate that nowadays. Everything's so serious, and obviously there's a lot of risk that goes into these new, ventures and new locations. And I think that just being able to have a little bit of humor about it, and being able to kind of just, level with someone on a person to person basis goes a long way.
Is it, I've had some other developers on, it's a competitive market within developers, but there's also some collaboration. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say, we're all we all know what everyone's doing, even if you're not involved in that area or market. We pretty much stay in the suburban market, but of course I know what's, going on at the plaza and what's, going on downtown. And I think it's really, we act like, oh, we've come up with all these ideas by ourselves, like totally. But no, we're going around, like even when we're on trips, when I'm on family trips, we're like, oh, they did that so cool, like taking pictures, using ideas. And I think that's how you elevate your own development is not just like, okay, I'm just going to rely on my professionals. Like you have to bring something to the table. You have to get creative. And one idea that we've kind of put into action at our Lenexa developments is there's all this rock and limestone, these huge chunks of rock that have just like been unearthed by us basically, grading and doing our utilities. And instead of kind of, breaking it up or whatever, we've kept all of that, stockpiled it, and are using it throughout our development in really cool and unique ways as like benches or, other types of appealing visually and kind of, physically for someone to like sit down on. And I think, that's how you get creative and like kind of set your development apart rather than like, oh, let's just build another block wall here, So, and sometimes it takes a little effort. Like, it's easy for a civil engineer to just design an engineered block wall. We're like, no, we want a landscape tiered wall with these rocks. And they're like, well, those aren't, the same size. They're all different. They vary. How are we supposed to? And it's like, okay, well, we'll do a design build with our contractor, just kind of, vision it out. It can't be bigger than 4 feet. Otherwise, it has to have other regulations and be engineered. So I think, you can take the ideas from other developers and kind of make them into your own kind of way. But we definitely pick up bits and pieces from each other. And I think, maybe we're not as collaborative as maybe like in the brokerage community or the tenant community, but I think that just comes from a place that we're kind of like siloed in our own developments and like your head's down when you're in development mode and you're just trying to find the tenants, trying to find the capital, trying to get the right lenders on board, trying to get the city on board, get the right team of professionals. And I think that that doesn't come from like a lack of wanting to collaborate with each other. It's more just like
just the own personal chaos that you're in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, chaos is a great way to describe it.
I'd always get upset with myself when I'm traveling. I see something cool and I'm like, damn it, why didn't I come up with that?
Right, I know.
It seems so obvious once I've seen it, but I'm like, I see some really cool stuff. I do the same thing. I take pictures and some of that stuff's so unique. I always love people that are so creative. They just come up with stuff way outside the box.
Oh, yeah.
And the answer in our business isn't, well, we can't really do that because it's not standard. The answer is, well, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to do this because it'll end up being cool.
Yeah.
So let's get it figured out.
And that's what draws people to it, like a mural, like everyone used to be like, oh, graffiti. We don't want graffiti. And it's like, no, there's a difference between like a mural that people want to take photos in front of and post on their social media to get more activity to the center. And then, I think it's so funny. I was actually talking to Sam with Treasure yesterday, and I was like, we are like fully like committed to our social media now. But when they approached us a couple years ago, I was like, oh, this is going to be tough to sell my dad on it. I mean, he doesn't even have a computer. He works everything off of his phone. And he's like, definitely not on social media in any capacity. And he's like, well, why would developers need to be on social media? I get tenants or, individuals, but I don't get that, and I'm like, because no one knows what we're doing. Like, we're doing everything behind a closed door, and that's how everyone used to want it to be, They didn't want anyone to know what they were working on. But now people want to know. They want to know, where you're at in the process. And like we've gotten tenants from our social media now. We've gotten, I think the cities, like just the city officials and the people that work at the cities, they're more comfortable with us as a developer and a Westar as a brand because they see us on social media all the time, whether it's a stupid post about, like we did a 4th of July post that we're like eating hot dogs. And it's just like, okay, we're like real people, we're not just these like mean, nasty developers that are going to come like say it's our way or the highway, pound our fist, it's like, no, we're like, we, you know, are normal people that are just trying to like make the city better and the community better that we live in. So
Well, you've been great. Thank you very much for your time.
thank you. Yeah.
You speak very passionate about your family and your business, so I love that.
I love my family. Let me just say that on here.
And I think you're almost a professional. I think you got 3 or 4 plugs in, so everybody out there should be cool with that.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank our company, CKF. We do cabinets and countertops,
Yes.
but
I walked through the
allow me to do
showroom
this,
on the
yeah.
way in here, and I will say, everyone listening, you got to check it out. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks.
incredible, and definitely look forward to working with you, hopefully in the future too.
Yeah, we put a lot of work into it last spring. Just remodeled it, got all of our stuff in there, some of our new styles. So yeah, we're pretty proud of it. So
Your kitchen has to be like at home, like incredible.
well, my
right?
wife's a kitchen designer too,
Oh,
so that's
you just,
helpful.
Yeah, you have it made.
I don't have a lot of say with what goes in there,
Yeah.
but I get it. It's okay.
Yeah,
It's great.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much
All
for
right.
having me.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for joining us on Building Kansas City. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify, or Apple podcast and share it. Until next time, keep building Kansas City. Take care.